Native Americans, also known as American Indians or Indigenous Americans, are the indigenous people of the United States, excluding Hawaii. Christopher Columbus mistakenly called them Indians, believing he had reached the Indies. The history of Native Americans in the U.S. spans tens of thousands of years, starting in ancient times. During the Ice Age, humans crossed the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia to Alaska and gradually migrated across North America, reaching Mexico and beyond. By 1000 BC, they had spread across the continent, developing diverse languages and civilizations. Native Americans came from various tribes, similar to the diversity found in Europe, Asia, and Africa. After the Ice Age, Native Americans made wise use of natural resources, growing crops like corn and squash, raising animals like turkeys, and hunting deer and bison. They built mounds as centers of government from the Midwest to South America, often topped with palaces and temples. Native American cities were comparable in size to those in Europe and Asia, and their architecture remains admired. Following 1492, European exploration and colonization transformed perceptions of the Old and New Worlds. Early major contacts were made by Spanish explorers in Florida and the Gulf Coast. From the 16th to the 19th centuries, Native American populations sharply declined, primarily due to diseases brought by Europeans, such as measles and smallpox, to which they had no immunity. The Columbian Exchange introduced new animals, plants, and diseases between the Old and New Worlds. Horses, which escaped and thrived in the wild, became integral to Native American life for transportation, hunting, and warfare. Europeans colonized the Americas to create new farmlands and jobs. They often fought Native American tribes for land. During the American Revolution, Native Americans generally sided with the British, hoping to halt further colonial expansion. The U.S. sought to expand, develop farming, and satisfy settlers' land hunger, often purchasing Native American land through treaties, though conflicts frequently arose. U.S. policy toward Native Americans evolved post-revolution. George Washington and Henry Knox viewed Native Americans as equals, but believed their society was inferior. Washington's policy aimed to encourage civilization, leading to the Civilization Fund Act of 1819. Native Americans resisted settlers' encroachments in several regions. In the 1830s, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, relocating Native Americans to reservations to open their lands for non-native settlement, resulting in the Trail of Tears. Conflicts known as the Indian Wars continued throughout the 19th century, including the Dakota War, Great Sioux War, and Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson granted citizenship to Native Americans who served in World War I. Despite this, many faced resistance and discrimination when trying to vote. On June 2, 1924, President Calvin Coolidge signed the Indian Citizenship Act, granting citizenship to all Native Americans born in the U.S. Before this, nearly two-thirds were already citizens through marriage, military service, or land allotments. Today, Native Americans have the right to vote and run for political office, though controversies over federal jurisdiction, sovereignty, and cultural practices persist.